Welcome back to the Band Guide, where we use GarageBand to create professional sounding music. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today is the 10th video in the Ultimate GarageBand Beginner's Guide. This video series is walking through everything you need to know from the very first time you open up GarageBand until you're exporting out your finished, mixed, and mastered song. In fact, we're actually going to be recording, mixing, and mastering a song in this series, so be sure to stick around for that. It's coming up soon. But today we're focusing on the gear you need to make music in GarageBand, because there's a little bit of gear you need, at least one piece that you absolutely have to have. So we're going to be going through that in just a minute. But first, I want to give you something completely free. I've put together the Ultimate GarageBand Guide. This is a guide that walks through everything in GarageBand, how to record, how to mix, how to master, gear you need, shortcuts, everything I can even think of, completely free from link in the description below. It's really going to help you out, so be sure to pick it up. But let's go and get into today's video, where we're talking about the gear you need. And as I mentioned before, there's only one piece of gear you absolutely have to have. So I'm going to kind of break this video up and walk through it in terms of definitely need to have, and then work down through to like nice to have / accessories. So starting with the gear that you absolutely have to have, the only thing you need 100%, no matter what you're doing in GarageBand, is a good way to be able to hear it. And with that, a lot of people jump to speakers, but I actually recommend a good pair of headphones. Now, I've tried a lot of headphones over the years, and they never really impressed me. I never felt like I could mix on them. They never felt like they fully showed the sound of the song until I got these DT770s by Dire Dynamic. And so many members of the Band Guide community have picked these up since I started recommending them, and all of them swear by them too. They all love them. A lot of them switched over from other headphones by Sennheiser or Shure, and those are all good headphones. As long as you're happy with the headphones you have, don't worry too much about it. But I'll tell you, I use a lot of other brands, and I put these on for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, I can hear the high end, I can hear the low end so much better in these. Plus, they're comfortable. If you look at these huge pads, I can wear them for hours. You know that I'm for real about this because you'll see me wearing these in any videos where we're working on music. It's amazing. I love these headphones. So DT770 Pros by Biodynamic, highly recommend them. And by the way, there are links in the description below. You do not have to buy from those links, but those links won't cost you anymore, and they will help support this channel. So if you are going to pick up gear anyway, definitely grab them from the link in the descriptions below. Okay, the second thing you need has to do with if you want to make music recording anything out in the real world, and that's an interface. Now, an interface is just something that is going to convert analog sound to digital sound so your computer knows what's going on, and it also converts the digital sound back to audio so we can hear it. Now, you obviously have this just on like your headphone jack to be able to hear back what's going on in music, but an interface will give you a higher quality final output. It's a higher quality sound card, so you'll hear it better coming out of an interface than you will your built-in laptop like headphone output as well. Very, very, very subtle difference, but it can help as you start to get really, really refined with your ears. Okay, so an interface, there's a few different options here. I don't have any of them in front of me because I use a kind of expensive one I acquired over the years. I've been making music for a long time. I have a Universal Apollo Twin, which is a great interface. But my top personal recommendation at this moment is actually the Universal Audio Volt. So the Volt 2 goes for almost the exact same price as the Focusrite, and it has a few more options, and I just really, really like and have confidence in Universal Audio stuff. I really like Focusrite stuff too, so definitely not saying don't get the Focusrite, but if you don't have an interface already, I would start with this one. If you already have a Focusrite or another piece of gear, I would stick with that, right? But if you have a really, really cheap interface, I'd grab this Volt. The Volt, my buddy Barty Strange is out on tour right now. I know that UAD just sent him one for recording while he's on the road. So this is a tried and true piece of gear that really, really sounds good. It's relatively new, so I haven't recommended it before on this channel, but currently I think it's the best kind of mid-range starting point interface. It's not the bottom of the barrel. It's also not the most expensive thing. As I said, I have the Universal Apollo. It's pretty expensive, but the Volt is really, really solid at a much more reasonable price point. Now, the other interface that I would recommend, I've recommended in the past, and I do still stand by it, is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 or Solo. Great interface, slightly less expensive than the Volt, but in a similar price point. And it's just tried and true. It's been around for a long time, and people love it. A lot of people use it. Other members in my band personally use it and have gotten great results with it. So that is still a really, really solid interface. If you don't want to go with the Volt or you already have the Focusrite, then I definitely stand by that recommendation as well. So you need to get a good pair of headphones. You need a good interface. This is going to allow you to plug in microphones to be able to record. And that's actually my next recommendation is microphones. So For most people starting out, if you're only going to have one microphone, it should likely be a large diaphragm condenser because this is going to work on anything. Now, large diaphragm condensers are the most articulate microphones. They can pick up a wide range. They're really, really accurate representation. They do pick up a little bit more room noise, but generally speaking, this is still my recommendation for most people in most situations just starting out. So this is just an old, cheap, used one that I got years ago. I don't even know that you could find this anymore. I wouldn't recommend necessarily this specific one. What I would actually recommend with modern selection is the AT2035. That is a great price point. I think it's about $150, and it gives you a lot more than the little brother, the AT2020, which doesn't have a shock mount, has a higher noise floor, which isn't ideal. So the AT2035 is definitely my beginning, like mid-range, not lowest price point microphone. I really, really like that one. The other one that I really like is the Avantone CK6. It's another very similar setup microphone, has a shock mount, lower noise floor, sounds really good. And then the third one, if you want to go just a little bit more expensive, Warm Audio has a couple microphones in like the $300 range that are really great. Their 47 FET Junior is a great microphone. My buddy has it. I've recorded vocals with it. We've recorded acoustic guitar with it. Sounds really, really good. It is more expensive, but it will kind of get you a little bit further than a total beginner microphone. So I think the AT2035, the CK6, those are great, in my opinion, kind of lowest price point microphones that I'd recommend. The Warm Audio 47 Junior is probably that good, like mid-tier microphone if you want to spend just a little bit more. Sounds really great. It's a recreation of a 47 FET style microphone. Really, really solid microphone. Okay, so that is it in terms of everything you need to be able to record sound out in the world, except for a couple little accessories like this mic stand here. You need a mic stand. I have tried a lot of cheap mic stands over the years. These ones from Samson, I still have. These are some of the first ones I ever bought. I've bought more expensive ones since then, and I still pull these out over those more expensive ones probably 50-60% of the time. There's just something about them. They just work. They don't fall over. Yeah, they feel a little bit light, but they are sturdy. It's kind of crazy. So I'll link to those below as well. So a mic stand, you also need a mic cable. You don't need to splurge, get anything super expensive here, but a good mic cable, I'll link to one in the description below. You'll need a pop filter if you're recording vocals. Now this is really, really important. Pop filters are a little piece that is going to catch your air before it hits the microphone. So when you say a p or a t sound or a b sound, anything, I'll do one up here, p, right? It doesn't sound good. If you have a pop filter before your microphone, it will catch that air and stop it, kind of spread it out instead of overloading the actual microphone capsule. So you need a pop filter if you're going to be recording vocals. And then my last two suggestions are a little more optional depending on what you're working on. So the first would be a different type of microphone, and that's a SM57. This is the go-to for years. Most studios, you'll walk in, they might have 10, 12 of these microphones. They just work on sources. They're not quite as articulate as something like a large diaphragm condenser, but they have this nice kind of almost gritty tone that can work really, really well on all sorts of different sources. Sometimes vocals, sometimes your acoustic guitar. They're classics on guitar amps. So if you want to record an amp in the real world, a large diaphragm condenser will definitely work on that. Sometimes I pull those out instead or end up preferring the sound of that instead. But a 57 is a classic, as I said, and they're only about $100. So an SM57, highly recommend picking up one of those. And then the last one is one that I think a lot of people think they want and they grab, but then don't realize how many little problems that it can create, and that is speakers. So speakers are great, but the problem with speakers is that the way sound comes out of speakers, one, you got to get them positioned right, which is a whole battle in and of itself. Two, they will resonate with things in your room, so they'll resonate with your desks unless you work on decoupling them from your desks. And then three, they're going to resonate around your room. So they're going to bounce off the walls and build up frequencies around your room. So that actually changes the sound of the speakers, and you don't necessarily hear as clear of a representation of what's going on in your recording as you would with headphones that don't have any of those issues. So when you're starting out, I still think headphones are better for mixing, recording, mastering, all that stuff. With recording, they're particularly great. But sometimes you just want to be able to hear it without headphones on. And I definitely understand that, and I feel the same. So a recommendation I have for those are these iLounds by IK Multimedia. To be honest, when I first heard of these, I did not take them seriously because iLoud, I'm sorry, it's a stupid name. But they are really good. They're really, really good. They're tiny, so they're not going to be moving as much sound in your room, so you won't have to deal with reflections quite as much. But they're so articulate, right? You can hear the high end on these so much better than so many other speakers that I've mixed on. And the mid-range is pretty solid. They do lack a little bit in the low end, which is natural, in the low mid-range. But, you know, if you're just listening as you're just recording guitar, if you just want to edit, you don't want to have headphones on, you can get a very, very, very clear sound out of these speakers, and they're not particularly expensive. For a pair of speakers, they're less than most single individual speakers, which, by the way, if you are buying other speakers, it's important to know that studio monitors sell in ones. I don't know why. If anyone knows the history behind that, let me know. But they sell in one speaker at a time, so you have to actually buy two. Whereas with a pair of these, you just get a pair of these. They actually link together. One of them only has an output from the other speaker, so you only need to power one of them, which is convenient. And they just sound good. And then you can also throw them up on little mic stands. So I have these little mic stands, and the cables all run, so I can't pull it over here. But I have these little desktop mic stands. I'll link to them in the description below as well. And they're just tiny. They're not particularly expensive. I think they're 15 bucks a piece. And they get the speakers up off the desk so it doesn't resonate with the desk. And they get them right up to my ear level, which is really important. So a quick note, if you are setting up speakers, if you definitely want to go with them, you want your speakers to be equal distance from each other as they are to your ear. So imagine an equilateral triangle between the speakers and then to your ear. So first note. Second note is that you want them to be right at ear level. So you want the little space right between the tweeter and the main speaker to be right at your ear level. So as you're setting them up, try to get them up to that height so they feel really comfortable. You'll hear them the best. You don't want them down here pointing at your chest. The nice thing with these is they do have a little kickstand, so they can elevate a little bit, which depending on the height of your desk and where you sit can work. In my case, because I use a sit-stand desk, it doesn't work for me particularly well. So having them mounted on little mic stands on my desk was perfect. Okay, so that is the equipment you need, starting with good pair of headphones, then an interface if you want to record anything in the real world, then a microphone, little accessories like a mic cable and a mic stand, and then if you want another microphone option, an SM57, and if you really want to have speakers, I highly recommend these iLouds for most people. They're really great. They also have one model that's above them. It does room correction in them. They're called the MTMs. I'm thinking about switching to those at some point in the future. They're a fair amount bigger, but they have room correction, which is really, really cool. So it can kind of remove some of those resonant frequencies that build up in terms of how it presents the audio to you. So it can be a little bit more accurate. So these I like for editing and checking my mix just on another source quickly, but I don't do my primary mixing on them. I do my primary mixing on these headphones, and I love these, and my mixes have improved since I've gotten them. So if nothing else, grab a pair of these headphones. Highly recommend them. They're the only piece of gear I've recommended for years, and everybody that I know has got them, has loved them. Okay, be sure to grab the Ultimate GarageBand Guide from the link in the description below. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Do you have any favorite pieces of gear? Microphones, interfaces, headphones, speakers, anything? Let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.
One thing at a time. I can only handle one thing at a time. One thing at a time.